What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the Windchill Factor podcast. We had another roundtable this week. Last week was a smashing success. So we have a return guest, Mr. Jake, the Bills fan, Jake Jordan, the lowdown every single Friday. How you doing, Jake?
I'm doing good, better than I was last night doing my podcast, but nobody's gonna know about that. Guy hit with the dreaded Chinese food. It's the worst.
Chinese food?
Anyway, no, no, man. We back. Last week was fucking awesome. And Justus, you hit me up today. You're like, you want to run it back? I'm like, damn right, I want to run it back. Let's go.
Absolutely. All right, and I have two other very, very special guests. They don't have any like shows or anything, but these guys are two guys on Twitter who I either argue with in the terms of like we go at it, or I argue with in terms of we go at other people. So the guy who I argue with in terms of we go at it is definitely this guy, Dom. He's actually a really cool person. So, you take a little football debate, it's fine. It's just football. But shout out to Dom. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good, bro. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to get this thing done and talk some football with you guys. Excited for practice tomorrow, bro. First live practice I've ever been to for the Bills. So let's get this, man.
Same here. Appreciate you the invite because it's going to be my first practice as well. But moving on to the guy who I argue with in terms of me and him go after other people all the time, but super duper knowledgeable of football. I think everybody in the Bills community can collectively agree that we all love Reddit Bills. Is that fair to say? I think everybody, feels that way.
Is it my favorite Twitter account? No offense, Justus.
Hey, we're not taking
yes too.
Probably mine too, but we got Mr. Brian.
He'd be liking some of my tweets that have like no likes on them. So thanks for
that. I'll just see stuff from like 48 hours ago, and I'm like, I like that.
He gets all the gems. But Reddit Bills, Mr. Brian Alverson. Thanks for coming on, bro. Today we're just gonna go ahead and talk about some training camp. First couple of days of training camp are upon us. And there's been a lot of news, specifically what seems like pretty good news for the Bills, just all around, honestly. But we'll start with the Buffalo Bills since this is a Bills show to a degree. But yes, go ahead, Brian. How are you feeling about the Bills training camp so far?
I'm feeling really good. Yeah, like you said, I think nowadays they're keeping a little tighter lid on things that go on in training camp, making sure that the team controls the narrative a little better. But everything we've heard so far has been really good. I think it's almost taken me a little getting used to. In the past, you go through training camp and it almost seems like every Bills fan overrates the heck out of all of our players. But nowadays, it almost seems like maybe our expectations aren't quite as high as what they're actually putting up in training camp. Because this roster is just super deep, and you're hearing about like even just today, Spencer Brown, he's taking first team reps at left tackle, having a great day. He's having such a good time that he's even giving Ed Oliver problems. It's just a great sign, especially for a guy who was a third round pick and still a rookie. And everyone thought how inexperienced he was. He might not even be able to play this year, but he's just having a great day today. It seems like every position group is just top to bottom. Everybody's performing really well.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Actually, today, Friday, because this drops on Tuesday. Friday, I made a tweet about how happy I was to see that Spencer Brown was giving Ed Oliver problems, but then also I was very upset about it to the same degree because we expect a lot out of Ed Oliver this year. Jake, what's your take on Bills training camp so far?
On the training camp, I like everything that has been going on at training camp. Everything looks awesome. It's crazy only because usually we go into the training camps like, all right, there's something specific we're looking, and there's still camp battles we're looking at, right? But it's like there's nobody there who, like, we're hearing these things like Spencer Brown is giving Ed Oliver trouble, which I'm pretty sure is the last thing I heard Brian talk about. And then like the the day before that, we're hearing just about how the offense is doing amazing and just like how Boogie Basham decides to just tip a ball at the line and pick six it. Like these guys are going at it, it seems like every single day. And these dudes that we've drafted, from Spencer Brown to our defensive guys, are just doing things, and they seem to be more advanced. Levi Wallace came out and said that these new guys seem to be way farther along than he was when he was first brought in. Everybody's bringing their A game, and it's awesome to see that, you know, there's just all this great stuff happening in Buffalo when it could be worse, like it is in other teams in our division.
Absolutely.
I really wish we had gotten that Boogie Basham play on camera, because that just sounds like it was crazy, tipping it and picking it and then taking it for a touchdown all by himself.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like, and on Josh Allen too.
They said Josh had a pretty spectacular day. That was really the only bad thing. And they said that was more of a good play on Boogie's part than it was a bad play on Josh's part. So that's very encouraging. Mr. Dom, how you doing, bro? What are you thinking about the Bills training camp so far? I know you took a lot of notes.
I wouldn't trip too much on the Ed Oliver doing good or doing bad, against Spencer Brown for a couple reps. You know, Spencer Brown, he trained with a Hall of Famer the whole offseason. And when you do that, when you're not in college, like college, you're limited by what you can do per day. He wasn't limited. He was getting as many reps as he could with a Hall of Fame caliber lineman. You know, I think he's going to be more.
Do you know who the lineman was?
Joe Thomas, I think, wasn't it? Oh, no.
No.
No, it was the guy who played for the 49ers.
Yeah, he played for the 49ers. I can't remember. Let me
Staley?
look this up, actually.
Yeah.
It was Staley, yeah. So, you know,
they spent all summer together.
So
I don't know if Joe Staley runs a camp or if they were just sort of, if he was just working one-on-one with Spencer.
So he worked the whole season. Like I think his college didn't have a season. So he worked the whole college season instead with Staley, and then that's how he got invited to the Senior Bowl. So he was working with Joe Staley, and that's how he got his invite. So I think he might be more pro ready than people think, even just because he was third round pick. I think he fell with the lack of tape. So I won't put too much stock in that he's doing good against Oliver. Plus, you know, these guys aren't allowed to do so much without any pads on or whatever. So
very good points were made.
But other than that, I feel great about camp, man. Josh Allen's looking great. Apparently our offense picked up better than it left off last season, and our defensive line, our veterans in the backfield are talking up these guys. So, you know, I like to see that.
Absolutely. Good looks all around training camp. Go ahead, Jake.
One last thing, just that I completely remembered off the top of my head, of just like how overlooked it kind of feels like Spencer Brown was, is that Charles Davis came out and said anonymously he talked to people and asked them without coercing like an answer out of them, just what offensive lineman in the draft would you most like? 5 random offensive coordinators in the league, or offensive lines coach, and 5 of them in the league said Spencer Brown, and somehow we ended up with him. And that's just one thing that I'm just very surprised at, that now I hear about him doing well and just he has all these traits. Like hearing that he's doing good in camp almost does not seem surprising to me, because, you know, we know he's only getting the snaps at left tackle because Deion Dawkins is not there right now. And I like to hear that he's making the most out of it.
Okay.
Hey, you know our guy Pierre. Oh, my bad. I was going to say, you know our guy Pierre out here. Our guy Pierre out here listening, saying, nah, he's taking that right tackle spot.
Oh, yeah.
Pierre's on Darrell Williams, but
Pierre's smoking that Spencer Brown pack like it's crazy, man. He's saying that they're going to get Feliciano's ass out of there, and it's going to be Darrell Williams at right guard and then Spencer Brown at right tackle. I mean, I wouldn't hate it either.
Get the best 5.
Whatever you think is the best 5, I want it out there regardless. So
yep.
That was a great point, Jake. It actually made me think of 2 more questions, kind of Well, they are related. Okay, so Spencer Brown, you said he didn't play last year in terms of his college football season, or who said that? Was that you, Nam?
That was me. I think he didn't play.
He
I'm not
played
sure.
at Northern Iowa. I don't think
Yeah,
they played
it was.
season.
Yeah, they didn't play.
Okay, perfect. So that means his draft stock would have probably fell because he didn't have any tape on there, and so you go ahead and you draft him in the third round. What do you think would have been his actual draft capital or status rather if he were to play last season and have a good season?
High second with his potential because he's only played the position for 3 years, I think.
Yeah, and he's still a small school guy, but he's also, in terms of relative athletic score, I think he's the top ever at the position. So
yeah,
if he plays a full season, I think he probably works his way up into the end of the first or the
I'm sorry, did you say the best ever?
He's the number one.
The best.
All-time offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Also,
I like that.
I believe Doyle is top 10 as well, correct?
Yeah, Doyle's right up there too. They're both crazy.
See,
yeah,
know exactly what he's doing.
I feel bad for Tommy Doyle.
Big baller beam, baby.
If we had just drafted Tommy Doyle, we would all be gushing over him, but he's like just a little bit under Spencer Brown.
Yeah,
it's totally forgotten that.
Bean knew what he was doing. He was getting big athletic dudes. That's what he was doing.
On both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive.
So he's making it so that next year when Darrell Williams' contract is up, or not up, but we can get out of it easily, or even Feliciano, we can boot them to the curb and roll with the rookies on cheap deals because we're going to need that money in the bank for Josh and Edmonds.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to get rid of Williams. I can't see us definitely get rid of Feliciano though. Jake, what would you think Spencer Brown's draft status would be?
I'm going to say just because he's in a small school and he's not really, playing against those top tier defensive guys, while he's still playing against good, I think most of those small school guys are probably going to go in the second round. And if he did play, I do believe he's probably a mid to upper second round guy. That's it.
I think it would really depend a lot.
Go ahead, bro.
I believe they play like Iowa. They play a few D1 schools, like some of the top 25 guys. So that tape would have been really important to see what he does against guys who are usually NFL caliber D linemen in college. So
100%.
Speaking of, that brings me to my next question. Mr. Gregory Rousseau, who was drafted number 30 overall, I believe, by the Buffalo Bills. He was our first round draft pick. And he is also another guy who didn't play last year due to COVID. He had 15 and a half sacks the last year he played in college, which was second in the nation only to Chase Young, who was the best defensive lineman to maybe ever come out of the draft, some people say. So if Greg Rousseau plays last year and has a dominant season, I don't know. He had a half a sack less than Chase Young. I'm not saying he's Chase Young, but I'm saying he could have gotten better and become something similar, maybe something similar to a dominant pass rusher. Where do you think, Brian? Where do you think Greg Rousseau could have ended up?
I mean, if he had put up even just like another 10 sack season, I think he would easily be going top 10 just because NFL teams are so desperate for that kind of production and pass rushing talent these days. So I think if he can tap into what he was doing as a sophomore, then he'll be an absolute steal at 30. But he probably has a ways to go to get there, especially in terms of getting to NFL conditioning, because he's kind of a lanky guy at this point. I don't know if they're going to ask him to gain a lot of weight, but McDermott and Leslie Frazier do tend to like meatier defensive linemen, so that might be something they ask him to do. But yeah, I think if he even has an above average to similar to what he did as a sophomore, he's definitely going top 10 in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. If he even just, maybe in half the sack season, he just really needed to have some tape on the field to show that one season wasn't a fluke. So what really hurt him was that one lack of year tape, and I think he had some poor agility drills. Don't quote me on that. I believe he had some problem with bend on tape, or not on tape, but in the drills. So they, yeah, just another year tape. He easily would have been top 10. I think maybe even top 5 if he, replicates it or even somewhere close.
What about you, Jake? What you got him? Or you got him going?
Where do I got him going? If what are we saying? Just if he
has
able
12
to,
sacks.
Okay, if he has 12 sacks the next year, I think obviously, I think the big thing is if he came. I think he didn't come out that year just because Chase Young was there, and he could probably get top 10.
I don't think
like
he was eligible to be
transition.
drafted.
No, okay, maybe he's not eligible. So he's not eligible to be drafted. Comes out the next year with 12 sacks. He's easily top 10. The big thing is I do believe he did have some poor agility drills, Dominik. I think you are right on that. And he also gained weight, which was another thing that people said he was too light, so he gained some weight to go into the pre-draft workouts and stuff like that, and that was another thing that hurt him. So I think he goes top 10 if he puts up those kind of numbers, but because he came in a little bit like at a higher weight and had the poor agility skill, then everybody started saying, well, maybe he just benefited from being in the scheme, and well, most of those sacks came from the inside, and then Jalen Phillips stepped into the role the next year and had just about as much success. He was just as dominant with Miami. So I think that he probably goes top 10 if he is playing at the same position and has 12 sacks and Miami.
Okay, so then let me ask you this, Brian. Do you think that Greg Rousseau was good enough to obtain 12 sacks last year with Jalen Phillips on the other side?
It's a tough one to answer. I'm going to say yes, or if not getting the sacks on paper, at least, being in the ballpark with Jalen Phillips, because you know how it is sometimes when you have two good pass rushers, one of them kind of is generating the pressure and then the other one cleans it up. So it might have been something like that. But yeah, I definitely think he had the talent to do that.
What about Jake? What about you, Jake?
If he's got Jalen Phillips, yeah, I 100% agree. Maybe the numbers aren't exactly there. It's hit or miss which one's really going to be the one that ends up pulling the guy down at the end. But I think that even if Jalen Phillips is there and he's playing that year, he's still going to be just about as dominant. Maybe not 15 and a half, but
also remember Jalen Phillips has had problems, so he might not have played a full season. There is that. But I think with Jalen Phillips, yeah, I could easily see it because he got so many reps from the inside. Like, I think half of his sacks came from the inside that one year, and that was because almost every one of his snaps from inside was on third down or a pass rush, basically. So his ability to do that basically throws O-linemen off because they're not used to that length inside. They're usually used to those meatier, stouter guys. So
okay,
definitely 12 sacks.
So you think he would get to 12 sacks? Okay, yeah. So I have another kind of proposition for you guys. Brandon Beane, right? Josh Allen, projected number 1 pick, 2017, right? And then he has a season at Wyoming where he doesn't have a lot of talent to play with. They don't do great. His numbers don't look awesome. He ends up being the number 7 pick. Beane scoops him at number 7. Ed Oliver, supposed to be the number 1 overall pick out of Houston, has a year, and I think he actually stopped playing early in the season, so he didn't finish out the year, if I'm not mistaken. Beane grabs him at number 9 overall. Spencer Brown, we just mentioned it, doesn't play. He's probably going to be a high second round pick, maybe even sneak into the first round. Doesn't play. Beane gets him at 3rd. Greg Rousseau, 15 and a half sacks, could have easily been a high 10, the top 10 pick, but Beane snatches him at 3rd. What do you think is the impact that Sean McDermott, who changed the culture of the locker room, and Brandon Beane, who changed the culture of the organization. What is their impact going to be over the next 10 years, Dom?
Over the next 10 years? Oh my God, bro. I expect at least 2 Super Bowl appearances. I'd expect 1 win. But with the way Bean runs things, man, like as long as he keeps drafting these high upside guys, because we have the roster right now. We have a roster where you can take the chances on those guys. You can give a dude 2 years of development and be like when he's ready to go. Look what the Ravens do every few years. They have one of these high priced pass rushers hit the market, and you're like, where's this guy come from? It's because they draft guys on potential, develop them, and then let them hit the market, let them walk, get these comp picks, and start all over. So,
same with the Ravens, the Steelers, and the wide receivers. The same do the same way.
Exactly. So I think Brandon Beane is really gonna turn. I mean, he already has turned things around, but he's gonna turn us into one of the teams where you can expect us in the AFC conference game almost every year. You know. I think we're gonna be one of like the 3 teams where it was the Steelers, Colts, and Patriots for 20 years.
That's kind of how I felt. I feel like Pat and Josh would become like the new Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. But Jake, what do you have Beane and McDermott? What do you think they can accomplish over the next decade?
Well, you're going to be a perennial playoff team every single year. Exactly like Dom said, you're going to be one of those teams where you're like a Pittsburgh or a New England for the longest time. Just like you knew that the team and the organization was good enough. They had great coaching that no matter what, they could have some shortfalls in some areas. If maybe some things don't pan out, maybe some draft picks don't pan out and some guys leave and, you know, the guys you thought were going to replace don't, but they usually overall, you're going to be able to be in the playoffs every year and be contending. That's the thing. They're going to be contenders for the next 10 years. And I'd say even beyond that, because obviously I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. And the greatest thing about it is the continuity and obviously the scouting and the coaching staff. Beane is able to get these guys that he sees. This guy should have gone higher, or this guy maybe in this situation would have gone higher, and he's got the traits, he's got everything that Sean McDermott's going to be able to take advantage of. And that's the big thing, is the coaching staff is going to be able to play to these guys' traits and say that you have players leave, you're going to have guys behind them ready to take their place. Like Dom was saying earlier with Darrell Williams, we got these tackles now, and say that, you know, we want to move on from Darrell Williams and have these younger guys on these cheaper contracts. They're going to be there. And then when those guys are eventually up, or maybe they're going to get paid, there's going to be guys behind them, because that's just how the system's going to work. So for the next 10 years, we're going to be good. And for and after that, we're still going to be good.
For next at least 15 with Josh Allen. As long as Josh Allen's the QB and playing at an elite level, we will be contenders. That's as simple as that. All
right, Jake, you know how this show works, okay? I need hot takes, bro. All right, I need
a hot take.
I need to know how many Super Bowls are we going to win in the next 10 years?
In the next 10 years, we're going to win 3. I was going to say 4, but I decided to be a little conservative.
It's destiny.
3.
We have to win 4.
Wait, right, we're going to win 4 in a row. That's what we're going to do. 4 in a row.
Make up for the other 4. All right, Brian, go ahead. Tell me what's your expectations for McBean over the next 10 years and how many Super Bowls? Oh, you said 4, so go ahead and expound on
that. Yeah, I definitely think perennial playoff contender is right where we're at right now. I think if Brandon Beane had any flaw coming in, it was just feeling too attached to the Carolina Panthers. Everyone made the Buffalo Panthers jokes, but they seem to be getting away from that and establishing their own identity and not relying on some of these middling free agents that, they probably overpaid for when they originally brought them in, but they really needed to feel that
DeMarco
safety of guys that they were familiar with.
Kelvin Benjamin.
Now I think they're ready to, exactly. Like, I don't think we're going to be seeing any more Mike Tolberts coming in or anything like that. So, I don't know if they'll win 4 Super Bowls. My thing is,
you already said
it almost
it.
looks like, from
no,
in
he's
the
backtracking
2000s,
now.
it
Where's
was,
the hot take?
it was the AFC had 2 or 3 good teams, and then the NFC had a million good teams, and now it almost seems like it's flipped, where the AFC has so many promising young quarterbacks. Like Justin Herbert's just going to be amazing. I think he's going to be amazing.
Speaking
anyway,
of which, did you guys see that throw earlier today?
It
was a cannon. It went like 50 yards on a rope, but with touch. It was insane. I think he's going to be exciting to watch for the next decade.
Love seeing Justin Herbert just because he reminds me so much of Josh. And I love that he's in the division with Patrick Mahomes just to give him trouble every year. That's what I like.
Oh, it's going to be like those Steelers-Ravens days where they just beat the crap out of each other. And then once they get in the playoffs, then the Patriots, Bills, are going to, take advantage of that.
Yeah, they've been beating up on each other all year, and then you come in after beating up on your trash-ass division all year. And you're like, all right, we're fresh and ready to go.
All right, but Brian, I do have a question. You said something pretty interesting. You said there's a lot of good young quarterbacks. Who would you consider a good young quarterback that's going to be a threat to the Bills in the near future?
Justin Herbert would be my guy. I really like Justin Fields personally. I mean, if he also kind of reminds me of Josh Allen, but thankfully he's in the NFC, so we don't really have to worry about him too much. Let's see. Lamar Jackson, obviously, but I think I like him as a player. I don't like Greg Roman as an offensive coordinator. I think that one trick pony is going to come to an end soon, and they're probably going to have to move on from Greg Roman. So I don't want to predict what Lamar Jackson will be like after that, but he certainly has potential. And then obviously, until further notice, Patrick Mahomes is the guy to beat in the AFC. So as much as I think we can beat him, got to actually do it before we can, count on it for the future.
Also,
That's absolutely true.
Baker's not a great quarterback, but he's good enough to keep you games and win games.
As his long roster is good enough. He's not good enough.
No. All right, so think about it like this. Our team was really good in 2016, but Tyrod couldn't take us anywhere, right? He's better than that. He's above the Dalton level, in my opinion, but he's not elite. I don't think he'll ever be elite.
He's like Kirk Cousins, but
I think he is the Dalton level, honestly.
Cooler. Just a little cooler.
I think Kirk Cousins is the Dalton level right now.
Yeah.
I think Baker Mayfield is the new Dalton level. Like, here's my thing about Baker, right? Because rookie season, he comes and he breaks the touchdown record for a rookie. Ooh, oh my God, it's so good, right? And
here's a 5-year college player, right?
They won how many games? I forgot, like 5 or 6 games or something, which I understand is an accomplishment because they only won 1 game in the previous 2 years. But then his second season, he had a loaded roster. And I mean loaded. Like, you had Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, OBJ. Like, you had a loaded offense to go out there and do something with. He didn't do very much. His third year, you have the same loaded offense, but a better offense now. And I think they won 10 games and lost to the Jets. Like, Baker is not he's not a great quarterback. That's for damn sure. I would say he's probably slightly above average to me. I don't see the hype around Baker. Like, I see the roster around Baker, and I see that if you put any good to great quarterback on that roster, that might be a championship contender. But the only reason we don't know if the Browns are a championship contender is because Baker's their quarterback.
Yeah, and I think their playoff game against the Chiefs really proved that, because he had the prime opportunity when Patrick Mahomes gets injured and leaves the game, and he just, the whole team, the whole Browns team basically just fumbled it. But that's a situation that's a situation where your franchise quarterback has to, punch it home for you, and it just messed that up badly.
But what were you going to say, Dom?
I was begging Cleveland to win that game, man.
Yeah.
We were going to be able to host the AFC conference game, AFC championship game at our stadium, and the Browns fumbled it for us, man. I was so upset.
Yeah,
they literally fumbled.
The NFL would have shit its pants if it was the Browns Bills in the AFC. People would have been like, what the hell is this? These teams have been so bad for so long. Two other quarterbacks.
Bush administration.
So the first there's two other quarterbacks. I mean, you can throw Deshaun Watson in there. Me and Justus had a thing where Deshaun Watson. He said that Deshaun Watson, he's a 4-win quarterback. Come on, he sucks. But just adding on there. I mean, Joe Burrow. I mean, I think he's just going to.
Whoa, real quick. I didn't say he sucks.
Hold on. Yeah. You said he's a good. You said he's a good quarterback who cannot will his team to win. That's it. Yeah. So I would say that's pretty. So there's Joe Burrow, but I think he's going to be a victim of the Bungles. And then there's also Trevor Lawrence, who just got drafted, obviously. And we'll see what the Jaguars can do with him. But those are two other young quarterbacks that you got to look out for in the AFC, possibly in the next couple of years.
My problem with those two guys is their head coaches. Neither Zach Taylor, whatever.
Yeah, Zach Taylor is. I think he's going to be out after this year because
I think Urban Meyer's a one.
I don't even know why they bothered.
I think Urban's done after this year as well. I don't think he's going to like the NFL rules. He's already complaining about them.
Dude, Urban is going to get mysteriously sick and have to retire sometime this season when he keeps losing. That's what's going to happen. That's what my man does. But no, dude, there's so many. I mean, there's good quarterbacks in the division. I really liked I think that Baker Mayfield's probably on the same, like, he's Kirk Cousins to me. When I look at Baker Mayfield and I think of his career trajectory, I'm like, yeah, he's probably going to be a good quarterback, about slightly above average, like, or even average quarterback. But when I'm thinking of ones that are really going to challenge the Bills, I'm thinking of if Los Angeles even puts I mean, they've got a good team. I mean, they were a victim of their coaching last year. Anthony Lynn was awful. And then Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then you've got a couple like Baker Mayfield. They just have a good team around him, just challenging. And I would have said the Colts, but Carson Wentz went out here and destroyed his foot in practice. So
who could have seen Carson Wentz getting hurt coming? Like,
Eagles fans,
just 31 other teams.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, actually, that actually makes me think of a question. They kind of circulated Bill's Twitter to Friday.
No, we're not trading Mitch
Trubisky.
It's not happening.
Mitch Trubisky. Hold on, guys. Right. Okay. So Mitch Trubisky is our backup quarterback, and he is one of the best, if not the best, backups in the league, and maybe slightly below average starter, right? So if the Colts come to Brandon Beane, Chris Ballard comes to Brandon Beane and says, "Hey, look, man, we got a good roster. I think we can get it done this year. We just need a placeholder until Carson comes back. I'm going to give you a second-round pick." Jake, what? Jake, you don't want to take a second-round pick?
No. Why would you give? Right. Oh, hold on. Okay, so if it's a second-round pick, that's way more than you'd probably ever give for Mitchell Trubisky. So
Sam Bradford got it first, to be fair.
Yeah. If you're going to sit here and tell me that one of the people that you know you're probably going to be meeting in the playoffs, you're going to give them the quarterback that possibly you have just stashed on your roster as an insurance policy for Josh going down, you're going to give that guy to the Colts. What if he goes out there and decides, hey, I'm actually going to be good Mitchell Trubisky? Like, then you got to be like, why did the Bills trade that guy away to a person they knew they were a team they were going to be meeting in the playoffs? I would not do that. If it's an NFC team, they can have him for a second-round pick. The Colts, hell no. You get to stick with Jacob Eason or whoever the hell you got back then.
Okay. On the flip side of that, Eason. Oh yeah, Brian has to stan Eason now. Just so you know.
I made a joke yesterday that I stan Jacob Eason, and then once got injured. Now it's Eason season, so I'm kind of stuck with it. He's my guy
now. So, no, I think if it's a 2. If it's a 2 or a 1, you take that. I don't care who's calling. It could be it could be the New England Patriots calling. You give that up for Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah,
he's gone in a year. That's where I see it. He's gone in a year, and at most you could probably get from him is a 2024 or I think it's 2023 4th round pick. So would you rather have a 2023 fourth round pick with the insurance that if Josh misses a game, you don't lose it, or get 2022
Are you talking
second
about
or first round pick?
compensation or compensatory pick?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
I think the best compensatory pick you can get is a third round.
Yeah,
So
I think it was Greg Tom had something earlier that said you would get at best for Mitch Trubisky's contract that he could possibly sign fourth round pick. So
what about
that's
you,
really
Brian? If they come to
Can I-
Brandon Beane with a second round pick, what do you hold on, just let Brian go real quick and then we'll come back to Jake.
Yeah, I agree with Dom. I think if it's a second or better, then you say yes regardless of the team, just because this is the Josh Allen show, and if you trade away Mitch Trubisky, you can just sign Blake Bortles, who all would have been fine with signing 2 months
Razor
ago.
Bortles.
Yeah. You really, if Josh Allen goes down, you need a guy who can win you a couple of regular season games. Anything longer than that, and the sky's falling anyway. So if somebody wants to give you a second or a first round pick for Mitch Trubisky, then they're more than welcome to. I don't think a team will do that, but that would be the minimum to make it worthwhile. I think would be a second or like a third in a pretty good amount of change.
All right, go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to say that the difference in, I know you saying that if Josh Allen's if it's longer than 2 games, the whole season's over. I think if you have Mitchell Trubisky, those 2 or 3 games could mean seeding in the playoffs and you hosting games in the playoffs. So you don't, Blake Bortles, I understand, but just having a guy that's kind of a discount Josh Allen to run the scheme, kind of like that. I know that there's other guys that you could probably throw back there, but I just feel like having that insurance policy, which I'm going to keep calling Mitchell Trubisky. But if someone's stupid enough to offer you like a second or a first, yes, you really do consider that. You can sign anybody off the street. We got it done with Matt Barkley.
I'm pretty sure Matt Barkley's still living in Buffalo.
Oh,
probably.
Yeah.
So you could just literally call him up and be like, "Hey, man, you want to?"
He is Mr. Buffalo.
Yeah, you want to come back?
I love that.
Yeah. So,
but that is an underrated point. Like a couple years ago, the Ravens let Lamar Jackson sit a bunch of fourth quarters to rest because they had RG3 who could come in and basically just be Lamar Jackson, but down a peg or 2. So that Mitch Trubisky definitely gives us that. I'm trying to be nice to RG3.
So I want to ask Justus a question. If we get to mid-season, prior to trade deadline, and Mitch Trubisky has had to play a couple quarters, whatever, just because of blowouts, and he's put up good tape, would you trade him then?
Yeah, it really depends on the compensation. If you give me a second or a first for Mitch, I don't care when it is. I'm trading him. If it's like a fourth or no, I don't know. I think our Super Bowl chances are more important than a fourth or a fifth rounder. A third is where I'm kind of iffy. I would probably say no because I think our Super Bowl chances are more favorable than the value a third rounder might bring to us. I think Mitch's contribution toward a Super Bowl in case Josh does go down, knock on wood, I think it's more valuable than a potential third round pick. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Second round pick, I feel like could come in and give you valuable time that could help you win another Super Bowl. So I'd be happy, with that.
Depending on how Boogie Basham turns out, that's the second rounder right there. If that guy turns out to have second round pick, that's, a lot of guys that should have been in the first round do sometimes fall to the second round, and you're able to get some steals there. So if it's a team that's on the fringe at the trade deadline, and they really just need somebody to come in there and maybe get them slightly over the hump, but they're just the team I think I brought up Justus the other day was the Broncos. Probably at that point are probably just like Drew Lock stinks. Teddy Bridgewater is average. If they want to come calling saying like, hey, we need a guy who can get us slightly over the hump, and maybe they're going to be offering you. I don't think John Elway's their GM anymore, so they're not going to make a boneheaded play like that. But if they did, and
they're
offered
holding
you a
out
second,
for Rodgers next year.
You think so?
I think so. I think they're holding out for Rodgers.
That would be my guess.
Well, then they only have Mitch for the rest of the year to try to do something. So
yeah, but you
They're not
probably
doing
want to
anything.
use that. You at that point, if you're calling it a year, you're wanting a higher pick, and Mitch Trubisky's gonna be opposite of that goal. You know.
Yeah, they would have to be in a really weird
So,
spot where they're good enough to want to pull the trigger and also ignore Rodgers next year potentially.
Trade deadline may be probably like week 8. I would say you got to be at least 5-3, at least 5-3.
And in that division, man,
not happening for Denver.
That's my point. You got Pat Mahomes, and then the rising star.
We do have
Justin
3
Herbert
wild
there.
cards though now.
yeah.
There are
Yeah.
3 wild cards.
But we are 40 minutes in, and there is one thing I wanted to talk to you all about. First of all, Mr. Isaiah McKenzie is having a hell of a training camp apparently so far. Now there is a couple of people who are off the McKenzie bandwagon, but he's looking pretty good. And reportedly, Cody Ford is also looking pretty good again at training camp. All right, so Spencer Brown is locking up Ed Oliver. That's kind of a good and a bad thing, but we talked about that earlier. Cody Ford is also looking very good. So we're getting some potentially very good guard play. What do you guys think is the upside to having above average to good guard play this season, Brian?
I think the biggest advantage for that is really just getting the running game to a more efficient level. That was definitely our biggest weakness on offense last year. And this is always going to be a pass first team with Josh Allen at the helm. But, even if you don't run more, being able to run more efficiently and using it to ice games at the end, if you have like a 1 or 2 possession lead, just to, have Zach Moss put him away, the guards are really important for that. And I think if Cody Ford can finally, get everything put together, that he could be a big part of that, since he's a big guy with a lot of functional strength. Once he gets driving, he just has to really stay on the field and start putting that all together.
What do you think about Isaiah McKenzie?
I like him. I think he'll make the roster this year, probably, one of the bottom end guys. What he brings in terms of being able to do all those trick plays, I think Brian Dable really likes doing that. So he'll find ways to make himself useful on the offense that other fringe guys wouldn't be able to do. So I think he'll make the team, especially if he can be a returner. But even if he loses the return competition, I still think he's on it.
Okay, I like that. What about Dom? How you feeling about the guard position at its max, or not as maximum potential, but playing pretty good to the high end of their potential this year, along with Isaiah McKenzie potentially being the guy, or a guy, the face of the franchise apparently.
As far as the O-line goes, I mean, yeah, we do need to run more efficiently. We need to be – we had the game against the Patriots where they just wanted to shut down the pass completely, so we needed to run the ball. We need to be able to do that effectively against good teams. So when that happens, Chiefs did it to us. So that's something I'm looking for from the guard play. Also, the pass protection was okay, but if you watch the tape, Mitch Morse covers up a lot of ground for the other two interior positions. Mitch Morse is sometimes taking on 2-3 guys on a play. It's actually
he does not
nuts.
get nearly enough respect for just the crazy amount of work that he does.
Mm-hmm. And as far as McKenzie, originally I thought Stevenson was going to take it just because Bean has such an affinity for keeping his picks, but I haven't seen enough from camp from either the return or wide receiver stuff from Marquez to say that he's even close to making the roster right now. So I think McKenzie takes the 6th spot and the return spot.
Mr. Jordan.
Well, what can I say that these guys haven't already said? I mean, it's pretty much just like Isaiah McKenzie. We know what he can do, and he's basically our little gadget guy. And if he can also double up, and haven't heard anything about Stevenson in the return game and really a return position battle at all, pretty much, I think a lot of us are just assuming that Isaiah McKenzie is kind of the front runner for that because of history, and just if he is going to make the roster. I mean, just thinking of guys that can do the return position, it's going to be him. And when it comes to the guard play, I mean, what can we say? The interior guard play is one of the reasons why we could not run the ball effectively. So if we can get better play out of that, and we can run the ball more efficiently, God, I can't talk, then that's all good. I mean,
okay, well, I have a question for you. For you. If the guard play improves dramatically, because last year we had people literally sticking their hand up, Brian Winter's ass and just controlling him like a puppet.
We don't talk about Brian Winters right here. He's gone.
He's gone. Thank God.
He's gone.
The bad man can't hurt us anymore.
He can't hurt us.
But not so say we do have pretty good guard play this year. Where do you think that could take Josh's potential? Just being able to have a good line to stand behind where you're not having to roll out of the pocket so often.
If you give my man Josh Allen any more time in that pocket to be able to dice you up, he's gonna kill you. So if our guard play just gets even better when it comes to pass protection, dude, Josh Allen's gonna be dicing people up. And just for people that might think that if we get better guard play, that means we're gonna run more. If we can run the ball more effectively, I'm pretty sure they already said they're not gonna run the ball more. So definitely we will be. We just need to run it more effectively. So that's what's gonna happen there. But give Josh Allen any more time in that pocket, you're done. That's it. He already proved it with the time that he had with the average guard play he had last year and just rolling out. If that man is just able to really stand stoic back there in that pocket, it's game over for most defenses if they don't have some really good coverage in their secondary.
Okay. Real quick, I totally forgot about a topic that's probably pretty important. Dom, Madden ratings, they came out, bro. They gave your boy an 88, man. What's going on? Why is Madden hating on Josh Allen right now?
So, dude, one of their head dudes, Swami EA, that's his at. He yesterday tried to save face. He was like, consistency is more important than 1 year of great play. He said something about dropped interceptions, right? And I was like, okay, so you follow QB data mine, right? This man straight up brought up dropped interceptions and a Madden rating thing, and I was like, okay, let's fix your passing mechanics and your video game before you try to evaluate QB play, bro. Like
and Patrick Mahomes is a 99 overall. I had 2 less theoretical interceptions. The hell?
Well, okay. So I don't remember. Someone added me with the stats on that. SIS, I think that's the analytics site, I think, SIS. They actually did do a dropped interception stat, and Josh had 5, Mahomes had 7.
Because it's just a whole stat, really.
So I did a whole podcast on that because Ravens fans were trying to bring up the dropped interceptions rate when they were trying to compare Josh Allen and Lamar
would
Jackson.
Have to throw the ball in a risky spot for it to be a dropped interception.
I actually found found stats that were actually kind of real. Only one site kept track of it. It was called an adjusted interception, which just means that whatever a ball that should have been picked that was the quarterback's fault, that was counted, right? So in reality, Josh Allen had, I believe it was 14 is what it was. And then Lamar Jackson had 15. So in reality, the only stat that it wasn't even
dropped
adjusted intercept. Yeah. Or dropped intercept.
Yeah. There's interceptable passes, dropped interceptions, turnover worthy plays. They're all equally.
It was all a bunch of made up. It was a whole bunch of made up bullshit.
And you know what? You said a point. I think it was Dom who said something about a Madden's ratings adjuster who said something about consistency. Lamar Jackson wasn't great his rookie year. Last year he won the MVP, having objectively a worse season than Josh just did this past year. And in Madden 21, he was a 94 overall. How does that make sense?
So Aaron Quinn actually did something, I think it was a month ago. he showed Lamar's last 2 seasons. If you flip them with Josh's, so Josh's 2019 versus Lamar's 2020, and then Josh's 2020 versus Lamar's 2019. It's almost like they basically are the same player, almost, kind of. Lamar had more running, but overall stats were pretty similar. And so Aaron Quinn's like, okay, either both of them had 2 good seasons, or 1 good season, 1 great season, or you're saying they both only had 1 great season. Which is it? So,
and the big thing too.
Anybody who listens to my podcast would tell you, I say that Josh didn't have a bad season his sophomore year. He didn't. It was above average season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was great, but it was above average.
But you also have to take into account the fact that Josh was raw. Like, they really have to take into the fact that Josh didn't come into the league with 1,000 reps in college like some of these guys. He came from a JUCO. He missed his first year of college ball with or D1 ball with a shoulder injury, and then his last year of college ball, he had, I think, 0 NFL players on his roster. So
he also didn't come into the league with Alex Smith as his quarterback to help him out. He also didn't come in with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Eric Bieniemy and Eric Reed. Anyway, I'm sorry, Jake. What were you about to say, bro?
Oh, what I was about to say is you should have known that this bullshit was coming when the ratings adjuster came out and brought up the dropped interceptions and consistency.
I knew
they knew what was going to happen. They knew that the one player that they were about to put their rating out for, that everybody was going to be mad about, was damn Josh Allen. Like, the fact that he's an 88. He was an 88 last game.
So
game he was 88.
He ended Madden 21 with an 88. It was Buffalo Fanatics put out something that he was an 88 last game, and then he starts here with an 88. I believe he started like a 76 last year.
Yeah.
Still super low. He should have been an 80 last year. Probably should be a 90 this year. I think if you were a 90 and still 7, because he'd be tied with Lamar and Watson, people wouldn't have a problem. It's the fact that they basically are saying he's a tier below those guys that people are having a problem with.
Because that's incorrect. And not only that incorrect, but what I mentioned about Madden, like when JJ Watt was made a 94 overall or something stupid, like something that was totally illogical, right? He was the third best pass rusher in the league, according to Madden, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, that is, first of all, that's super bogus. Secondly, if he played for the Bills, he would have been like an 82 overall. And then they just went and they proved my point, because look, Devontae Adams is probably, I don't want to say probably, he is great, but he's not better than Stephon Diggs. I would be cool with them both being a 98, a 99, but he's not better than Stephon Diggs. And then you got Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde not even breaching at the 90 overall. Are you kidding me? Like, they've been 2 of the best safeties in the league the last 3 years. So when I say that if JJ Watt played for the Bills, he would have been 82 overall, I wholeheartedly believe that, because I really, truly believe that they discount the Bills overall, and they always have.
All you have to know about the ratings,
consistency is more important than anything else. When Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer have been probably the 2 most consistent safeties in the league.
Right.
Thank you. Exactly.
It matters to everybody else with them, I guess.
Right.
I don't even buy Madden's trash ass game anyway. I just wait for it to come out on the EA. I wait for it to come out on the EA Play Vault, like the year after. Like, I don't even buy the game full price because that shit's so bad.
It's just a $60 roster update.
So just think about this. They had Minkah Fitzpatrick at the 10th best safety in the game. He was just as much of a first team All-Pro as the number 1 ranked safety, Tyrann Mathieu, however you pronounce it. So how do you have one guy number 1 overall just as much as the All-Pro as Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's 10th overall safety? That just doesn't make sense.
How do you let somebody who was second in MVP race, second team All-Pro quarterback, where there's only one? There's not 2 quarterbacks in the first and second. There's one.
There's 2. Josh and Mahomes were tied.
Well, I mean, they tied, but like there isn't like a QB2 position as well.
No, I get what you're saying.
He was second team All-Pro. He was second in MVP race, and you put Deshaun Watson, who won 4 games above him. You put Lamar Jackson, who he literally beat and outplayed in the playoff. What the hell, outside of speed, does Lamar Jackson do better than Josh Allen? Outside of speed and agility, what does he do better?
Take a dookie in a game. Oh.
it's
illogical. Better if he really wanted to.
Probably.
And probably he could probably poop in a game better too.
He could probably run back to take a shit faster than Lamar Jackson did. He'd probably waddle better too.
Guys would just form a wall around him, and he's already.
John Feliciano would pick Josh Allen up to go take him to the bathroom. Literally. He wouldn't even let him run.
I know you guys are joking about this, but like 6 years ago, I think. No. I think like 6 years. You guys remember Dan Carpenter? I think 6 years ago, there's a picture of him taking a piss on the Bills sideline. He didn't even bother going to the bathroom. He's like, I'm just right here.
Or just whip it out right here.
50,000 people. That's kind of crazy.
I mean, you got to think about how bad.
At least go into the blue tent or something.
Dan Carpenter is going into the blue tent for some reason, and he's unbuttoning his pants.
All right, I'm sorry, we are an hour in and we haven't even got to the rest of the AFC East. So how about this? I'm going to give each of you guys. I'm going to give each of you guys a team, and you tell me what you feel. First of all, about how that team has done in training camp thus far and what your expectations are for them this year. Okay, so Jake, I'm going to go ahead and give you the Patriots. Brian, you get the Dolphins. Dominik, you get the Jets. Go ahead, Jake.
So we're going to start off with the New England Patriots, huh? I think everything that I've heard just coming out of their camp is, I think Cam the first day was just not having a good day, especially when it came to end zone targets. He was throwing it behind people, everything like that. Apparently, Mac Jones is pretty much just having some, I believe, what did you say, Dominik, in your notes? You said ball placement issues? My man could not ball placement issues. And you got Nelson Aguilar just probably being the only good receiver there, possibly. And then
he had a bad drop too.
Yeah.
Mac Jones had a perfect ball and he just dropped it.
Yeah, I don't like giving Mac Jones credit, but
so what you're telling me is that Nelson Aguilar is back to what he was like in Philadelphia. Just dropping balls all over the place.
Yeah, because he was a beast in Oakland or Las Vegas, rather.
Yeah, last year for some reason he was good, and then now New England gave him that wide receiver 1 money, and he's back to Philadelphia.
That was stupid because for all the credit Bill Belichick gets, he makes some dumb decisions in free agency.
He is a horrible fucking GM. I'm sorry. Did you see the GM rankings? And they had Bill Belichick as number 1. The number 1 GM.
I don't know how you don't have the dude who won Executive of the Year last year as number 1.
Bill Belichick over all these years has been consistently probably one of the worst GMs when it comes to drafting. Maybe he's good
that people want to play with Tom on the cheap.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say he's really gotten lucky in just being able to bring in guys because he had Tom Brady and then getting rid of guys before they, turn out to be absolutely horrible, which just comes from his system. And then when players leave the system, they're awful.
Remember, he traded away Chandler Jones in his prime.
Yeah, he did. And they didn't give Tom Brady any respect, and now they're going to be mediocre for the next 10 to 15 years. I don't know. Maybe Mac Jones is something. But their defense is the only thing that I think is really going to be the thing that should scare any team this year. That's maybe just even saying that if Stephon Gilmore has there been any update on what's going on with Stephon Gilmore? Is he still mad at them?
I haven't heard anything, but last I knew they were having some issues because he didn't like the amount of money that he was getting paid.
He didn't like. So basically, what you're going to have next year is the Baltimore Ravens with a pretty good defense and a team that runs 2 tight end sets with a guy who's just basically running the bare minimum. So my expectations for them, though, they've got Bill Belichick as their damn coach. And if they have a respectable defense, they've shown in the past that they're able to do something with it. I would say 8 or 9 wins is probably what I say that they win next year, but I wouldn't even put them in the double digits. So right now, their training camp, from what we know, things are working out kind of with the guys that they've brought in, and I haven't really looked much into their defense, but I'm just going to assume that Bill Belichick will have them informed come season.
Okay. All right, Brian, what do you think of the Dolphins?
Yeah, Dolphins training camp so far has been kind of hectic for them. Obviously, the big headline right now is Xavier Howard demanding a trade, which will be a huge issue for them, I think, especially in a division with Josh Allen, since he's their top, or I mean, they're kind of a two-headed CB duo there with him and who's their other guy?
Byron Jones.
Byron Jones, yeah. Sorry. So without him, it's pretty. I think it'll be a lot easier to attack their secondary. But they've had a whole bunch of wide receiver injuries going into training camp. I think Jalen Waddle had an ankle thing for a little while, but he might be back in practice. Parker got injured. Preston Williams got injured. My guy Jakeem Grant is healthy and having a really good training camp so far. So you don't like it when Dolphins have good time, but he's probably my favorite Dolphin, him or Gesicki, because Mike Gesicki's also a stud. And Tua, obviously, I think it's pretty much more of what we would expect from him. He's had some ups and downs. They posted a highlight of him a little while ago where he threw a pretty wobbly pass, and all the Dolphins fans were upset about it because you point out that it's a wobbly pass. They don't want to hear it. Then he threw they had some other highlights of him where he was throwing a much better balls with good placement. So kind of seems like he's chugging along slowly. Personally, I'm not too worried about Tua ever. I don't think he's going to really turn into anything, but maybe he'll be kind of like a game manager type quarterback who can win some games with a strong defense.
Okay. Don. Oh.
Yeah, what's up?
Jake.
Okay.
Dom. Yeah, how you feeling about the Dolphins?
About the Dolphins or the Jets?
Well, you're gonna do the Jets, but
about the Dolphins.
Like, kind of give your opinion of what you said about the Dolphins.
I like I said, I haven't seen anything really. Tua's had his ups and downs. I think yesterday he had 2 interceptions. The one thing I do see is that Robert Foster is having a pretty good camp. So, former Bill, keep an eye out there. I saw X Howard and Will Fuller both haven't practiced I think just today. I know X didn't practice yesterday, so that's 2 days and just 3 training camp days that X hasn't practiced. So,
yeah, he doesn't want to be there anyway. Jake, what do you feel about the Dolphins?
I think that they're just really trying to figure it out. And Tua, me and you, we've had conversations about the Dolphins before. We've beaten in the ground how we feel about Tua. I love to hear Robert Foster having a good camp. He was one of the guys that I actually liked on the Bills, but now we're just too good to have a guy like Robert Foster. But one of the things I threw in the private chat here was, Will Fuller had to leave practice. That was one of their big gets. They were like, hey, we got to give Tua like a guy. And then Brian Flores goes, Will Fuller had to leave because of personal problems. And it's like, well, now what the hell is wrong with Will Fuller? That was the one guy you brought in to put opposite of Devontae Parker, who's also now hurt, which should not be surprising to anybody. He gets hurt almost every season. He burns me in fantasy. I don't know why I keep drafting him, but just to what I think about the Dolphins, man, I think they're about to take a big step. They overachieved last year, and this year their defensive captains, we talked about it, being gone. Godchow is gone. Kyle Van Noy is gone. X wants out. Probably, who knows if he actually plays the season. He's really probably going to be pushing for a trade, or he's going to be like, hey, I'm hurt, and he hasn't practiced. So who even knows what
he was doing too? He was out with like a minor injury.
An injury, yeah. So, they're going to take a step back, and I don't know what the offense is going to do. I think they still haven't named an offensive coordinator. They have co-offensive coordinators.
They're not naming a single one. They're just going with the co-coordinator thing. And everyone knows 2 heads is better than 1.
Yeah, definitely. If you've got two guys in Tua's ear, that's definitely better than one guy.
Everyone always says if you have two quarterbacks, it's better than having one quarterback, right?
Yeah,
because the countries with two presidents are the most successful ones. That's true.
Yeah, definitely. We also, I believe, we talked about. You said we didn't know what Jacoby Brissett is going to be to this team this year, and I'm really thinking that this year, if they are going to do the thing where they keep pulling Tua out for Jacoby Brissett, I think this Tua experiment is going to be done just as fast as it started. So, and we already talked.
Road this time, I don't think they're going to bench him and then bring him back out. I think that's just going to be.
Yeah,
they better not, especially.
They'll ride out at least 12 games with him before doing anything like that.
Yeah, especially with reports that that Brian Flores wanted Justin Herbert, but then got they overrided him. We're like, no, we're gonna get Tua. I believe it was like management that wanted Tua. So he basically Brian Flores was like, I want my guy to be Justin Herbert, but you know what? I have no problem with this dysfunction down with the Dolphins. I like Brian Flores as a coach. I think that he's a good defensive coach, but I think he's just getting like everything that could go wrong is going to go wrong down there. And I'm going to have no problem seeing that personnel turnover in a couple of years, or maybe even next year, who even knows? So I'm perfectly fine with all this dysfunction.
Yeah. Me and you, Jake, we talked about this on Home Field Advantage every Wednesday live on YouTube. But anyway, I feel like the Dolphins have had a very, very, very unfortunate series of events, right? Because you hire the right guy at coach, right? You got a great roster, right? Everybody thinks you're going to win one game. You come out, you shock the world, and you're, I believe, 5-3 by week 9, right? And you got Ryan Fitzpatrick, not balling out crazy, but I mean, he's playing pretty well, well above average, actually, right? And then you think it's time to bring in your rookie, and it's not. You mess up. You hold on real quick. You continue to let you continue to let your rookie go out there, and then when he's not prepared, you bench him, right? To bring back in Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think drafting Tua was the thing that's going to really mess them up over the next 5 years, right? Because you realize Tua's not the guy. Then not only that, but you're trading away Mika Fitzpatrick. You're going to have to trade away Xavier Howard soon. And then you're going to realize Tua is not my guy. He's not the guy. And that's already what you put your capital into. So even if you go get a guy like Deshaun Watson, you don't know if he's going to play again. And even if he does, you have to give up so many assets to get him that you're just going to end up being a bad team again. And to my point, what I just said, what did we just see Deshaun Watson do with nothing around him? He played great, I guess individually, but they won 4 games. So your hope is that Tua isn't actually as garbage as he looks. But then again, it's unfortunate because I don't feel like you'll ever have a chance to see, because you have such a good roster, and Brian Flores is a winner. He's not somebody who's going to be like, look, we're going to develop our quarterback. And no, he's going to play the better player. And Jacoby Brissett is the better quarterback. And I honestly think that if they are 500 going into week 9, let's say they're 4-4, I truly wholeheartedly believe that he's going to play Jacoby Brissett, because I think he wants to make the playoffs. What were you going to say, Dom?
Originally, I think it was your point about the Tua bringing in Tua last year with Fitzpatrick. I think originally their plan was to bring him in at the bye week. That was just their plan, and then they didn't think Fitz was going. Fitz didn't think he was going to have. They didn't think Fitz was going to have the year he was having. So at that point, management was telling Flores, "Hey, we want to see the rookie. Put him in there after the bye week." So, he still tries to win games, pulls Fitzpatrick, whatever. I think you're right that at some point, they're going to pull Tua just because Flores wants to win, and he's going to want to try to save his job, because you don't get many head coaching jobs in this league. Especially as a black head coach. So he wants to save his job. So
if this goes to crap, which I think it will, it is not I repeat, not Brian Flores' fault.
Oh, I agree.
Yes,
but
that's the last person whose fault it is.
That's how the league treats it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What were you gonna say, Jake?
So, have I ever told you my theory as to why Tua was actually put in? Have I ever mentioned that? Okay,
To break
that
Ryan
might have been
Fitzpatrick's heart.
So my big theory for why Tua was actually put in is I forget what game they were blowing some team out going into it, and they said, "All right, we're going to put Tua in at the very end of the game, give him the last drive, whatever." So then he goes and he plays in that last whatever. It's like some pass to Mike Gesicki that's like 5 yards or whatever, and it's like Tua's made his first pass. Oh my god! So Tua makes the first pass. And then at the end of the game, Miami, the Dolphins social media team takes that picture of him sitting on the logo in the Dolphins stadium, like, oh my god, look at him. He got his first taste of NFL action. And then the headlines exploded with it. Everyone was like, Tua, oh my god, he got to play or whatever. I think the management saw that and were like, do you see the publicity we get with this guy? Good Morning Football is talking about us. Pro Football Talk is talking about us. We want Tua as the starter now. Do you see what kind of turnout we're getting from him? And immediately after that week, right after that, they said, Fitz is out. Tua's the starter. I think that it all came down from management. I don't think Brian Flores wanted to play Tua at all this year. I think he wanted Tua to sit and learn behind Fitzpatrick, and then he was going to be the guy after Fitzpatrick was gone after this season. But management, like Dom said, maybe he said the bye week, I think they decided maybe that was what they were going to do, but I don't think Brian Flores wanted to even do that. And I think that what ended up happening is they got a little bit of taste of publicity and ended up being like, hey, we want this guy now. And it's backfiring on them because I don't think Tua's ready at all. And now they lost Ryan Fitzpatrick, so he can't learn behind him at all now.
Also, I hate the fact that
you got to write that down. We're going to talk about that on your pod.
I also hate the fact that they can commit to just Tua, because if they committed to just Tua, I think the best thing for a young quarterback is to be thrown into the fire. Just let them learn on the fly. Like, you know, they need to learn what they can't do. They need to learn what they can do on the field. Like when Josh was a rookie and he was making those dumb plays every now and then, that was a learning experience. He learned that he can't run around in the pocket for 10 seconds like he used to in college. Like, I mean, he can every now and then. He's done it, but I just don't like it. But
no,
last year was not the year to start Tua.
No,
I 100% agree with you that if you're going to throw the guy in, you got to leave him in there for even all the bad stuff. And that's my problem with Brian Flores is he came from that New England system, right? He never saw Bill Belichick have to develop a quarterback. And I think that's the one problem that he had. He was there and he watched, they had Tom Brady for the longest time. So he comes down here and he's kind of a hard ass. We've heard that, you know, they've got the culture. It's kind of similar to New England. You know, he wants to win. And I guess he just didn't realize how detrimental it can be to a quarterback. I know a lot of people were like, oh, Dolphins fans were like, it doesn't mess with his psyche. That's not the problem. Taking him out won't affect him. Yeah, it does. Because if you don't think your coach believes in you, dude, like, I guess a lot of people just don't understand how that can affect you mentally. And he kept getting pulled out. Like, if you're like, hey, I can do this. We need one drive to go win the game. And your coach goes, no, we're putting the other guy in. That's got to kill you, especially if you're supposed to be a franchise.
Oh, so much to any pro sports mental. Just like the mental part of pro sports is huge. We just saw
especially
Simone Biles.
You're a rookie, I mean,
yeah,
it's not like he was a 10-year veteran who's probably used to hitting the bench sometimes.
We just saw the GOAT Simone Biles have to opt out of an Olympics because of her mental health. Like, mental health's real in sports, man. So it's like, yeah, Tua definitely was getting his head yanked on, and it just wasn't good for that development. I mean, I think the great thing for Josh was we didn't have to sit him because of his injury. With that injury, he got to sit back and watch, Derek Anderson for a game. He saw Matt Barkley. I think Matt Barkley was huge, actually, getting to see because Matt Barkley's been around the league. He's seen what pros do to get ready for games and everything. So Josh being able to sit back and watch what Barkley did to prepare was probably huge.
The difference between Josh and Tua is Josh was thrown into the fire, but he was able to be thrown into the fire because we sucked. We had nothing going for us except the good defense, but that's not going to make you the playoffs. I mean, it did, but our offensive line was straight garbage, right? And then for Tua, it's kind of like he didn't have that luxury of being around a garbage team and being thrown into the fire because he had a good roster around him. They wanted to win games. They weren't here to say, okay, we're going to develop you, kid. And he was like, no, we want to make the playoffs, right? So that was, and if your theory is true, Jake, which I'm inclined to believe, honestly, I don't think Brian Flores wanted to do that because if you ask me, it was a stupid move, and it was the dumbest move he made all year last year. So I don't think that I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't his decision. So even if even if you have your quarterback, he's saying I want to win, which is why I think they went and got Jacoby Brissett because he wants to win and he doesn't think Tua can win. So we're going to go ahead and go jump into the Jets. Dom, what are you seeing from the Jets so far this offseason? Or training camp.
So with training camp, I mean, obviously we all saw Zach Wilson didn't get there till yesterday. It took them 3 days to sign their. I mean, it took them the whole offseason to finally get him signed, and it was over something so stupid.
Yeah, it
took
3 months.
Like, why are you worrying about cutting him in 4 years? If you think he's the guy that you picked him at, what was it, number 2 overall? Number 2? Yeah. If you think he's the guy, why are you worrying about cutting him in 4 years? Just don't worry about that. Give him his money, move on. So we all saw that. So today was his first practice. He from one of the reporters, he looked indecisive, inaccurate. He threw a pick, and he was holding on to the ball too long. So, normal rookie stuff that you see, but the problem with the Jets is they don't have a veteran quarterback on that roster. They don't have a guy who's thrown an NFL pass on that roster. At QB, I should say, because I think Jamison Crowder has thrown an NFL pass. And so yesterday, with their 2 guys, I think it's James Morgan, and I can't remember their other guy. They
Mike White.
Mike White.
Okay, so they only threw 1 pass beyond 10 yards, and that was thrown for an interception. So it's not looking good for them offensively, but I think their defense is probably going to be top 10 in the league. Just with Robert Saleh calling plays, and I think their D-line's still good against the run, and then C.J. Mosley is going to be back, and if he's the player he was in 2019, I don't want to play them on defense. Like, I don't want to see that defense because Josh hasn't really had a great game against the Jets yet, so we still need to see that from him.
Brian, how do you feel about the Jets?
Yeah, I think defensively, the biggest question mark for them is just who's going to emerge as their cornerbacks, because they really don't have any. They didn't have any like top picks. They didn't sign any big free agents to fill in on those gaps, so they're kind of counting on all these little. Actually, even think they lost Brian Poole in free agency, so they're counting on all these late round picks and other undrafted free agents and stuff for someone to step up. And I'm not sure it's clear who's going to do that yet. But yeah, defensively, I think otherwise they look really sharp. And both of the big guys that they signed in free agency, Carl Lawson and Corey Davis, both seem to be having really good camps. I know Carl Lawson was a guy that the Bills were kind of kicking the tires on, didn't end up signing him. And he signed with the Jets, and I think the report was that he had 2 sacks in sacks, obviously they don't hit the quarterback, but he had 2 sacks in practice. So I think he's going to be a real problem for us when they get him on the line.
How about you, Jake?
Well, Justus, I've had my spiel about the Jets. You know this. We talked about 40 damn minutes about the dumpster fire that are the New York Jets. But I will say their big problem is not going to be their pass rush. Their defensive line, even though I do believe Quinnen Williams is still out, like he's like on their PUP, like he's not there right now.
Up in the offseason.
Yeah, he's hurt, but we know what he can be. He was a guy last year. For some reason, they said they were shopping around at the trade deadline. I was like, what are you doing?
I would have traded for him in an instant,
dude.
Man. He would have been our star. He would have been our star replacement for the future. Oh my god!
God.
So They have that going, and then their big problems are in their secondary. Like Brian said, their corners, I bet you could not name anybody, and Brian Poole is gone. So if you ask me who are the Jets corners, I have to Google it because there's not one guy on there. And probably 99% of the population that are not Jets fans would have to Google it as well. And also, I believe the only safety you can name now that Jamal Adams is gone is Marcus May, and they don't even want to pay that man, so he's going to be gone after this year, so it doesn't matter.
Am I not allowed to count Thompson as Zeraldine because he's a linebacker now?
Yeah, Thompson, Azarine, and Bryce Hall, and I only know them because they were like guys.
Yeah, because we were scouting them. And then on offense, I think it would have really behooved them to try to keep maybe a Joe Flacco who they had on their team last year, but Joe Flacco said, "No, y'all suck. I'm out of here. I'm not even going to stay. I don't care about your new quarterback. I'm out. I like that Sam guy." But I feel like just that whole organization, there just seems to be, and maybe it's ownership. I feel like just them messing around with their quarterback like they have. And now I know they did do that with Sam Darnold for a while. They always have a problem in signing their picks. I don't know if that just has to do with their owners or
it's because they're always cutting them before their fourth year's over. So they're actually worried about that.
Yeah, I think
that was the thing that was the thing that me and Justus were just pounding the table about when we were live. We were just saying, what? You drafted this guy to be your replacement, and if you think you're gonna cut him, why did you draft him?
Yeah.
Why would you draft him? 15 years.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And Zach Wilson got his money, but apparently he did agree to the terms of hey, if I get cut between them, so. It is what it is. I think their offense is probably going to be atrocious this year. I mean, not having anybody there to really teach them anything. Say what you want about Derek Anderson, him being on the Bills. That's something that I think young quarterbacks need when they come to the league. It's just somebody who's a veteran and experienced like that to give them some sort of knowledge. And like we said, the Jets have 3 quarterbacks that have never thrown an NFL pass. So, what are they really going to learn from? I think Zach Wilson's going to have a terrible time this year. And, I didn't even like him coming out of college that much. I thought they should have taken Trey Lance, but that was on me. And I think a lot of other people thought they should have done that too. But Zach Wilson was their guy. They're going to stick with it. They're going to cut him in 4 years, and then they're going to be starting all over. So I'm all good with that. They're going to win. They're going to win 5 games this year, maybe 5.
To your point about cornerback, I did Google that, and their cornerback room is awful.
It's all nobody dudes. They have Lamar Jackson though, so they got a little recognition in the cornerback.
Lamar Jackson, undrafted free agent from last year.
They have three. They have 3 guys with more than 2 years of NFL experience in their cornerback room. 3 guys.
I mentioned this earlier on Home Field Advantage. Me and Jake talked about it. I think that they should have, kept Sam and used the number 2 pick on a premium position with premium talent that could be somebody who could help you for the next decade, not a quarterback who you don't know if will be here in 5 years. Because I don't think that Zach Wilson is more talented than Sam. I don't think he'll end up being better than what Sam will end up being. So I think that you just gave away a quarterback who was better for less than he was worth, and then drafted a quarterback who isn't as good too high. So I think that that's just going to be the start of their downfall. So I think them in Miami are on track to be garbage for a little while now.
The start of their downfall is going to be week 1 when they have to go into Carolina to face Sam Darnold. That's going to be the downfall.
That's going to be an ugly offensive game. I'm going to tell you right now.
Going to be a lot of
Sam going to go crazy. Yeah. Watch. Sam going to go crazy.
No, 100%. Everybody's like, oh, there's no pressure on Zach Wilson to win that game. You know damn well there's a bunch of pressure on Zach Wilson to win that. Those New York tabloids are sitting there waiting
New Jersey,
or New Jersey, whatever. I mean, they post them in the city, whatever. But it's just 100%. They're sitting there waiting to see what happens. Because if Zach Wilson goes out there and looks like straight trash, there should have been like we should have kept Sam. And then all the fan base is going to be like, why the hell didn't we keep Sam? And it's probably like, there's probably going to be other players that are just like, yeah, why didn't we keep Sam? So
then we don't even have then they don't even have a veteran quarterback to fall on if he's being completely awful. Plus, I think it was Corey Davis who was recruited to the Jets on the notion that Sam Darnold was going to be the starting quarterback. So
didn't know that.
Yeah, so that already hurts that relationship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh, that sucks. All right,
so
guys.
How long till Corey Davis requests a trade?
Yeah, not long.
That depends if he
Not
puts
long.
up any stats, because if he doesn't, then he's not going to be worth much.
He'll just be like, please cut me.
Please,
Can you cut me?
He just has to dye his mustache blonde, and then he'll be good.
I mean, he can go back to Tennessee now that Julio Jones is apparently El Chapo. So I guess they can cut him and he can go back to.
Yeah,
you didn't hear about that? You didn't hear about that?
He's getting sued for like selling marijuana behind the scenes of the grow business that he was working with or something.
Yeah, he was working with a legitimate cannabis company, and apparently they're suing him, saying that he was flipping it on the black market for almost $3 million a month to do that. And apparently it's legitimate, and they're going to be investigating it and pulling phone records and everything. So, hell, Julio Jones,
at least it was good money.
Yeah, I'm not mad.
That's illegal,
I mean,
I'm not mad.
If it's $3 million a month, they're gonna find that.
Yeah.
They're gonna find that. Like,
I thought it was because I'm like, you're an NFL superstar, maybe one of, if not the greatest wide receiver ever. Why would you be doing that for the little dollars for weed? But $3 million a month is
$3 million. Yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly.
more than I think.
And it's not bad. But we are 90 minutes into this thing. I really appreciate all of you guys for joining me. Did any of you guys have any questions you wanted to ask anybody else on the panel here?
I'm good.
Yeah, Justus, when are you going to be on my podcast?
Bro, I'm waiting to record. Whenever you call me, bro, we are doing it.
All right, we're going to do it next week. We'll have it on there. NFL conspiracy theories. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. That's going to be, I got so many conspiracy theories.
My question for you, Justus, how hyped are you for practice tomorrow?
You know what? I can't wait to go out there and just be taller than everybody. That's going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, bro, that's dope. That's how
you don't got to worry
They're
about
probably going to think you're on the team and ask you for a signature.
That's what I'm hoping for. And I hope that happens so much that like Brandon Bean will see me and he's like, hey, like, we'll see. Anyway.
Justus, I pray for the guy. I pray for the person who has to stand behind you to try to see practice.
They're not
They're probably going to be. Yeah, exactly. They wasted their money. They wasted their damn money.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, man.
But thank you guys so much for listening to the Windchill Factor podcast. I have Brian Alverson, Mr. Reddit Bills, the legend, Mr. Dominik Barbers. Everybody knows Dom. He's probably argued with you on Twitter. And then, of course, Jake Jordan, Jake the Bills fan, the lowdown every single Friday on the Built in Buffalo Podcast Network. This is the Windchill Factor on the Built in Buffalo Podcast Network. Thank you so much for tuning in.